What if I told you that the most powerful force in the entire universe isn't nuclear energy, isn't the pull of gravity, and certainly isn't the money in your bank account, but something you use every single day without even realizing its incredible potential? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Right now, as you're listening to these words, you're witnessing something extraordinary happening. Every syllable I'm speaking, every word you're thinking in response, is creating invisible ripples through the fabric of reality itself. You see, what most people don't understand is that words aren't just sounds we make with our mouths. They're vibrational frequencies that literally organize the energy around us. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up in the morning and immediately start telling yourself, "This is going to be a terrible day," or "I never have enough money," or "Why do bad things always happen to me?" And then, almost like magic, your day unfolds exactly as you predicted. Most people chalk this up to coincidence, bad luck, or just the way life is. But what you're about to discover might surprise you. There's actually a scientific, spiritual law at work here, one that the greatest minds throughout history have understood and used to transform their entire existence. Joseph Murphy, one of the most influential teachers of the New Thought movement, spent decades studying this phenomenon. What he discovered was revolutionary. Your words are not passive expressions of your thoughts, but active creative forces that shape your reality. Every time you speak, you're essentially programming your subconscious mind, which then works tirelessly behind the scenes to make your words come true. Think about it. When you declare, "I am healthy," you're not just making a statement. You're sending a specific vibrational signal to every cell in your body, commanding them to align with that frequency of wellness. When you affirm, "I am prosperous," you're not lying to yourself. You're actually planting seeds in the invisible substance of the universe, seeds that must eventually manifest as your physical reality. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology. This is the fundamental law of creation itself. The same power that spoke the universe into existence, the same force that Jesus used when he said, "Let there be light," and there was light, is available to you right now through your words. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share with you goes far beyond simple affirmations or positive thinking. We're talking about understanding the actual mechanics of how your verbalized thoughts interact with the quantum field of possibilities around you. You'll discover why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, health, and happiness, while others struggle despite working just as hard. The ancient texts weren't speaking metaphorically when they said life and death are in the power of the tongue. They were revealing a literal truth about how reality operates. Your words are constantly broadcasting signals into the universe, and the universe is constantly responding by organizing circumstances, people, and opportunities to match those signals. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most people are unconsciously using this power against themselves. Most people are unconsciously using this power against themselves every single day. They wake up and immediately start programming their reality with phrases like, "I'm so tired, I can't afford this, my back is killing me," or "I'm always stressed." And their subconscious mind, being the faithful servant that it is, says, "Your wish is my command," and begins orchestrating circumstances to make those declarations true. But here's where this gets absolutely fascinating. When you truly understand what's happening behind the scenes, you can flip this entire process to work in your favor. Your body, for instance, is constantly listening to every word you speak about it. When you affirm, "I am healthy and strong," you're not just being optimistic, you're literally issuing commands to your cellular structure. Each cell receives that vibrational message and begins to reorganize itself according to your decree. Think about this for a moment. Your body replaces billions of cells every single day. The question is, what blueprint are you giving those new cells? Are you programming them with stories of limitation, aging, and disease, or are you consciously directing them toward vitality, regeneration, and perfect function? This isn't some mystical concept. This is the hidden truth about how your biology responds to your psychology. If you're someone who craves this deeper level of understanding about how consciousness really works, I'd love to have you as part of this community. Hit that subscribe button so we can continue exploring these profound truths together. There's so much more to uncover about the hidden laws that govern transformation. The same principle applies to every area of your life. When you declare poverty, either through your words or your constant mental chatter about lack, you're essentially blocking the natural flow of abundance that wants to reach you. You're creating vibrational interference that repels opportunities, ideas, and resources. Conversely, when you decree harmony in your relationships, you're summoning people, situations, and circumstances that match that energetic frequency. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation because most people get this completely wrong. They think they can just repeat positive phrases like spiritual parrots and expect miracles to happen. But true transformation requires understanding the actual mechanics of how these verbal commands penetrate your subconscious mind and alter the very fabric of your reality. Your subconscious doesn't respond to the intellectual meaning of words. It responds to the emotional charge behind them. You could say, "I am prosperous" 1,000 times while feeling desperate inside, and your subconscious will respond to the desperation, not the words. This is why so many people try affirmations and conclude they don't work. They're missing the crucial element that makes the whole system function. The real journey begins when you realize that every word you speak is either building or destroying your future. Every casual comment about your health, your finances, your relationships, your capabilities, all of these seemingly innocent statements are actually powerful creative forces that your subconscious mind takes as direct orders. But here's what really changes everything. When you consciously align your words with your desired reality and feel the truth of those words in your bones, you create what I call a vibrational match between your inner world and your outer experience. This is when people start calling things coincidences or luck, but you'll know better. You'll understand that you've tapped into the fundamental creative principle that governs all manifestation. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond personal development or self-help. We're talking about accessing the same creative force that shapes galaxies, that causes seeds to become mighty trees, that transforms caterpillars into butterflies. This is the hidden mechanism behind every major breakthrough, every healing, every sudden shift from struggle to success that seems to come out of nowhere. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to understand this deeper," if you're beginning to see how your own words might have been shaping your reality in ways you never realized. The ancient text, "In the beginning was the Word," isn't just a poetic opening to a religious book. It's actually a precise scientific formula for spiritual production that most people completely misunderstand. When you really decode what this means, you're looking at the fundamental blueprint of how reality gets created. The word, spoken with genuine inner conviction, literally activates the same subconscious mechanisms that bring all forms of visible existence into being. This is where most people's understanding breaks down because they've been conditioned to think of words as powerless noise. But what if I told you that every major transformation in human history began with someone speaking a new reality into existence? Every invention, every breakthrough, every shift in consciousness started as a word, a declaration, a verbal commitment to something that didn't yet exist in the physical world. Your subconscious mind operates like the most sophisticated computer ever created, but here's the fascinating part. It doesn't question your programming. It simply executes whatever instructions you give it through your repeated thoughts and spoken words. This is both The most liberating and the most terrifying truth you can discover about yourself, because it means you've been the programmer of your own experience all along. But there's a crucial distinction that changes everything about how this process works. A decree isn't some casual wish or loose desire you throw out into the universe hoping something magical will happen. That's where most people go wrong with this whole concept. They treat their words like lottery tickets, hoping for luck rather than understanding they're actually issuing legal orders from the highest court of their own consciousness. When you truly decree something, you're speaking from your higher consciousness authority directly to your subconscious mind, which functions as the perfect servant. This servant doesn't reason, doesn't doubt, doesn't question your decisions. It simply takes your decree as absolute truth and begins reorganizing your entire internal and external reality to match that command. Think about the implications of this revelation. Every habitual thought pattern you've developed, every story you tell about yourself, every casual comment about your limitations, these aren't just harmless mental chatter. They're actually executive orders that your subconscious mind is faithfully executing behind the scenes. This invisible servant has been working 24 hours a day to prove your beliefs right, to validate your stories, to make your casual declarations come true. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract success while others struggle despite tremendous effort. It's not about luck, genetics, or circumstances. It's about the quality and consistency of their internal programming. Those who understand this hidden truth learn to speak with authority rather than hope, to decree rather than merely wish, to command rather than beg. The transformation happens when you shift from being a victim of unconscious programming to becoming the conscious architect of your reality. Instead of accidentally programming limitation, struggle, and mediocrity, you begin deliberately installing patterns of abundance, health, and success. Your subconscious mind doesn't care which program you choose. It simply executes whatever you consistently feed it through your thoughts and words. But here's where this gets really powerful. Once you understand that you're always issuing commands to this perfect servant, you realize that neutral ground doesn't exist. You're either consciously directing your subconscious toward your desired outcomes, or you're unconsciously programming it with whatever random thoughts and cultural conditioning happen to be floating through your mind. The moment you grasp this fundamental principle, everything changes about how you speak, how you think, and how you navigate through life. You begin to understand that your words carry the same creative authority that shapes galaxies and grows forests. Write in the comments, "I choose to decree," if you're ready to step into this level of conscious creation and stop leaving your reality to chance. The moment you grasp this fundamental principle, everything changes about how you speak, how you think, and how you navigate through life. You begin to understand that your words carry the same creative authority that shapes galaxies and grows forests. But here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. When you declare, "I am prosperous, wealth flows to me," while your bank account shows $50, you're not lying to yourself or engaging in wishful thinking. You're actually doing something far more profound and scientifically precise. You're planting seeds in what Joseph Murphy called the mental substance of the universe. This invisible realm contains every possibility, every potential outcome, every version of your life that could exist. When you speak with genuine conviction about prosperity, you're not creating something from nothing. You're invoking a reality that already exists in this field of infinite possibilities and drawing it into your physical experience. Think about how a seed works in nature. When you plant an apple seed, you don't see the tree immediately, but the entire blueprint for that tree already exists within the seed. The tree is already real on an invisible level. It just needs the right conditions to manifest in the physical world. Your words work exactly the same way. When you decree prosperity, health, or happiness, You're accessing the blueprint that already exists in the universe's mental substance and providing the conditions for it to grow into your visible reality. This is why Jesus wasn't speaking metaphorically when he said, "By your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned." Most people treat this as some kind of moral teaching about being careful with your speech, but it's actually revealing a fundamental physical law about how reality operates. Your words, specifically the words you feel deeply and speak with conviction, literally mold your conditions and circumstances. If this resonated with something deep inside you, that like button is your way of telling me this message hit home. It genuinely helps me know I'm creating content that matters, and honestly, that connection means everything to me. The impact of this revelation is staggering when you really sit with it. Every conversation you have, every internal dialogue running through your mind, every casual comment you make about your life is actively sculpting your future. Your words are like invisible hands, constantly shaping the clay of your experience, either building monuments to your dreams or constructing prisons of limitation. But here's the hidden truth that most people miss entirely. This molding process happens whether you're aware of it or not. Your subconscious mind is always listening, always recording, always responding to the vibrational frequency of your thoughts and words. The question isn't whether this process is working. The question is whether you're directing it consciously or letting it run on autopilot. When someone says, "I never have enough money," with deep feeling and repetition, they're not just expressing frustration. They're issuing a decree that their subconscious mind interprets as, "Please organize my circumstances so that I never have enough money." And being the perfect servant it is, the subconscious begins attracting situations, decisions, and events that validate that declaration. This is the mechanism behind every self-fulfilling prophecy, every coincidence, every pattern that seems to repeat in someone's life, regardless of their conscious efforts to change it. People wonder why they keep attracting the same type of relationships, the same financial struggles, the same health challenges, not realizing they've been unconsciously decreeing these experiences through their habitual thought patterns and verbal expressions. The transformation begins the moment you recognize that you've been the architect of your own experience all along. Every limitation you're currently facing can be traced back to a belief system that got programmed into your subconscious through repeated thoughts and words. But here's the beautiful part. If you created these conditions through your words, you can absolutely recreate them through different words. Write in the comments, "I am the architect," if you're beginning to see how your own words have been constructing the reality you're currently living in. However, there's a crucial distinction that separates those who successfully transform their reality from those who try affirmations for weeks and give up in frustration. Most people approach this like they're operating some kind of spiritual vending machine. They think if they just repeat the right phrases enough times, eventually something magical will happen. But that's completely backwards. Repeating is mechanical. It's what you do when you're trying to memorize multiplication tables or learn a foreign language through rote practice. Decreeing, on the other hand, is ceremonial. It's a sacred act where you speak from the deepest place of knowing within yourself, with the same authority that a judge uses when issuing a court order or a king uses when making a royal proclamation. When you truly decree something, you don't shout it desperately into the universe, hoping someone up there will hear you. You speak it once, with complete solemnity and inner knowing. Then you nourish that declaration with confident expectation of results. It's like planting a seed with absolute faith that it will grow, then tending the soil rather than digging it up every day to check if anything's happening. This is where most people completely miss the mark. They turn affirmations into desperate pleas rather than authoritative commands. They repeat, "I am wealthy," while feeling poor. "I am healthy," while obsessing over symptoms. "I am loved," while drowning in loneliness. But here's the revelation that changes everything. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to the intellectual content of your words. It responds to the emotional frequency that accompanies them. Words don't need intellectual understanding to transform your life. What they need is feeling. Pure, authentic, unshakable feeling that what you're declaring is already true. You could say health 1,000 times while your dominant emotion is fear about your diagnosis, and your subconscious will respond to the fear every single time. But speak that same word once, with genuine feeling of wellness flowing through your entire being, and something immediately shifts in your cellular structure. This is the hidden mechanism behind every spontaneous healing, every sudden breakthrough, every moment when someone's life completely transforms, seemingly overnight. It's not the accumulation of positive thoughts or the quantity of affirmations that creates the miracle. It's that one moment when feeling and word align perfectly, creating what I call a vibrational match between your inner state and your desired reality. Think about the implications of this discovery. You've probably been trying to change your circumstances through willpower, effort, and action, all external approaches, but the real transformation happens when you change the emotional frequency you're broadcasting through your words. Your subconscious mind is like a highly sensitive radio receiver that's constantly tuning into the dominant emotional signal you're transmitting. When you understand this principle, you realize why some people can manifest incredible results with what seems like minimal effort, while others struggle for years with techniques that should work. The difference isn't in the method, it's in the emotional authenticity behind the words. One person speaks their desires from a place of knowing, while another speaks them from a place of hoping and trying. Now, I want to reveal something even more powerful about how this emotional component actually rewires your nervous system and begins attracting circumstances that match your new vibrational frequency. Write in the comments, "I feel the shift," if you're starting to understand the difference between empty repetition and words charged with authentic feeling. Now, I want to reveal something even more powerful about how this emotional component actually rewires your nervous system and begins attracting circumstances that match your new vibrational frequency. But first, we need to address the elephant in the room, the devastating impact of negative decrees that most people are unconsciously issuing every single day. When someone habitually says, "I'm ruined, this has no remedy," or "things always go wrong for me," they're not just expressing frustration or venting their emotions, they're actually issuing powerful negative decrees that their subconscious mind accepts as absolute truth, and then works tirelessly to validate. These phrases act like destructive commands that systematically dismantle opportunities, block solutions, and attract more evidence to support the negative declaration. Here's where this gets really profound. Every time you say, "I am," followed by anything, you're using what the ancient texts called the name of God. This isn't religious symbolism, it's revealing the creative authority embedded in your very identity. When you declare, "I am prosperous," you're speaking from your divine creative nature. But when you say, "I am poor," "I am ugly," or "I am a failure," you're using that same creative power to program limitation and destruction into your experience. Most people have no idea they're wielding this level of creative authority through their casual speech. They think words are just sounds that express their current feelings, not realizing that every "I am" statement is literally a command to the universe about who they are and what they deserve to experience. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between positive and negative commands. It simply executes whatever program you consistently install through your thoughts and declarations. But here's the revelation that completely transforms how you understand this process. Not all words carry creative power. Only those words that are charged with genuine emotion and conviction penetrate your subconscious like a laser cutting through matter. This is why you can repeat positive, affirmations mechanically for months without seeing any change, while one moment of authentic emotional declaration can shift your entire trajectory. Emotion is the activating force that converts neutral phrases into effective decrees. Think of emotion as the electrical current that brings dead words to life. Without emotional charge, your words are like seeds scattered on concrete. They have potential, but no power to take root and grow. But when you speak from a place of deep feeling, whether positive or negative, those words leave permanent imprints in your psyche that begin attracting corresponding experiences. This is the hidden mechanism behind what people call self-fulfilling prophecies. When someone says, "I always get sick during flu season," with conviction born from past experience, they're not just making an observation, they're programming their immune system to fulfill that expectation. The emotional certainty behind the statement creates a vibrational match between their internal programming and their external reality. The same principle works in reverse. When someone declares, "I am healthy and strong," with the same level of emotional conviction, they're installing a different program that their body and circumstances begin to reflect. The key isn't just positive thinking, it's emotional authenticity behind the words you choose to declare as truth about yourself and your life. This discovery completely shifts your relationship with language. You begin to realize that every conversation, every internal monologue, every casual comment about your health, finances, or relationships is actually a creative act that's either building the life you want or reinforcing the patterns you're trying to escape. But there's an even deeper layer to this process that most people never discover. The way your emotionally charged words actually reorganize the quantum field around you and begin attracting people, opportunities, and circumstances that match your new vibrational signature. Write in the comments, "My words are power," if you're beginning to understand how your casual speech has been programming your reality in ways you never realized. This is where the work of Emile Coué revolutionized our understanding of how the mind actually operates behind the scenes. Coué discovered something that completely shattered conventional thinking about willpower and positive thinking. He found that imagination invariably conquers will. This means that no matter how strongly you consciously desire something, if your inner image vibrates with fear, doubt, or limitation, that unconscious vibration will dominate every single time and materialize in your experience instead of what you think you want. The fact that you've absorbed this entire teaching tells me you're ready for the advanced content I share regularly on this channel. Subscribe now, because what's coming next will build on everything we've discovered today, taking you even deeper into mastering your creative potential. This revelation explains why so many people struggle despite having tremendous willpower and determination. They might consciously want success, health, or prosperity, but if their imagination is constantly playing movies of failure, illness, or lack, their subconscious mind responds to those inner images rather than their conscious desires. The unconscious programming always wins because it operates with more emotional intensity than surface-level thinking. Think about what this means for your own journey of transformation. You could spend years trying to force positive outcomes through sheer determination. But if your inner dialogue is running scripts like, "Things never work out for me," or "I'm not the type of person who succeeds," those deeper programs will sabotage your efforts every time. Your subconscious mind doesn't care about your conscious goals. It simply executes whatever programming has the strongest emotional charge. This is exactly how emotional conditioning works in your daily life. Just like Pavlov's famous dogs that learn to salivate at the sound of a bell, your mind has been conditioned to respond automatically to certain words, phrases, and internal triggers. Each repeated word in your vocabulary becomes a psychological trigger that activates specific emotional and physiological responses throughout your entire system. When you habitually use the word failure, your nervous system immediately activates defeat reactions. Your Posture changes, your energy drops, your breathing becomes shallow, and your mind starts scanning for evidence to support that limiting identity. But when you condition yourself to use phrases like "I can" or "I am capable," those words align your entire biological and psychological system with empowerment, possibility, and solution-focused thinking. The hidden truth here is that you've been unconsciously training yourself through repetitive language patterns for years, maybe decades. Every time you've said, "I'm terrible with money," "I'm not good at relationships," or "I can never remember names," you've been conditioning your subconscious mind to prove those statements true. Your brain has become programmed to notice evidence that supports these limiting beliefs while filtering out information that contradicts them. But here's where this becomes incredibly empowering. Once you understand that your responses have been conditioned, you realize they can be reconditioned. The same mechanism that created your limitations can create your breakthroughs. The key is understanding that transformation happens not through fighting your old patterns, but through consistently installing new emotional associations with different words and phrases. This conditioning process happens whether you're aware of it or not. Every conversation you have, every internal dialogue you engage in, every story you tell about yourself is either reinforcing old limitations or creating new possibilities. The impact of this realization is that you can consciously choose which emotional associations you want to strengthen and which ones you want to dissolve. Now, I want to show you exactly how to begin reprogramming these automatic responses so that your words start working for you instead of against you. Write in the comments, "I choose new conditioning," if you're ready to start breaking free from the automatic patterns that have been limiting your potential. Now, I want to show you exactly how to begin reprogramming these automatic responses so that your words start working for you instead of against you. But first, you need to understand something that most people get completely backwards about how their subconscious mind actually processes information. Your subconscious doesn't respond to the intellectual content of your words. It responds entirely to the emotional tonality that accompanies them. This means you could say, "I am healthy," while feeling frustrated about your symptoms, and your subconscious will respond to the frustration, not the words. The result? Your body receives a mixed signal that actually reinforces the very condition you're trying to heal. On the flip side, you can speak those same words with genuine joy and confidence, and your entire cellular structure begins aligning with that vibration of wellness. This discovery completely transforms how you approach any kind of personal change or healing. It's not about finding the perfect words or the most sophisticated affirmations. It's about learning to speak from an authentic emotional state that matches what you're declaring. When you say, "I am prosperous," while feeling grateful and abundant, your subconscious accepts that as truth and begins reorganizing your circumstances to reflect that inner state. The ancients understood this principle far better than we do today. They weren't practicing blind devotion when they filled their sacred texts with praise and celebration. They were using precise vibrational technology. Every psalm, every hymn of gratitude, every expression of reverence was actually a sophisticated tool for adjusting their internal frequency and aligning their consciousness with elevated states of being. Think about what happens when you genuinely praise something. Your entire energy field shifts, your breathing deepens, your posture straightens, your mind clears, and suddenly you're operating from a completely different vibrational frequency than when you were complaining, worrying, or focusing on problems. The ancients discovered that praise generates an elevated vibration that naturally dissolves doubt, fear, and limitation from your mental and emotional field. This is why every major spiritual tradition throughout history has emphasized gratitude, celebration, and praise as fundamental practices. They weren't trying to appease some external deity. They were using the most powerful tools available for reprogramming their consciousness and aligning their inner state with their desired reality. When you understand this mechanism, you realize that every psalm is essentially a vibrational adjustment tool designed to elevate your frequency, energize your creative potential, and clear your mind of the doubts and fears that block manifestation. The repetitive nature of these practices wasn't about mindless repetition. It was about installing new emotional associations and conditioning your nervous system to operate from states of appreciation, confidence, and expectation rather than anxiety, lack, and limitation. This ancient wisdom reveals something profound about the journey of transformation. The fastest way to change your external circumstances isn't through struggle, effort, or trying to manipulate outcomes. It's through consciously elevating your internal state and speaking from that elevated place. When you consistently operate from frequencies of gratitude, joy, and confidence, your words naturally carry the creative power to reshape your reality. But here's where most people stumble. They try to force themselves into positive emotional states without understanding how to authentically shift their inner frequency. The key isn't pretending to feel good while suppressing negative emotions. It's learning specific techniques that actually elevate your vibration so that your positive declarations come from genuine inner alignment rather than surface-level hoping. Now, I want to reveal the exact process for accessing these elevated states and speaking with the kind of authentic authority that your subconscious mind recognizes and responds to immediately. Write in the comments, "I speak from elevation," if you're beginning to understand how your emotional state while speaking determines whether your words create or destroy your desired reality. But to truly master this, you need to understand that within you exists something far more sophisticated than any external technology or scientific laboratory you've ever encountered. Inside your consciousness lies a hidden workshop, an invisible laboratory where the most extraordinary transformations take place every single moment. In this sacred space, your thoughts function as raw materials, your emotions serve as chemical reagents, and your beliefs operate like powerful furnaces that can melt the crudest circumstances and convert them into pure gold. This laboratory is your subconscious mind. And once you learn to work with it consciously, you gain access to the same creative forces that shape reality itself. A simple like on this video helps ensure that others who need to hear this message will actually find it. The algorithm pays attention to engagement, and your click could be what brings this understanding to someone who's been searching for exactly these insights. The medieval alchemists weren't just trying to turn base metals into precious ones. They were using physical processes as symbols for something far more valuable. They understood that the real alchemy happens in consciousness, where you can literally transmute problems into blessings, illness into radiant health, fear into profound wisdom, and limitation into unlimited possibility. This isn't metaphorical language. This is the actual mechanism through which your inner world creates your outer experience. Think about what this means for any challenge you're currently facing. That financial pressure, that relationship conflict, that health concern, that career uncertainty. These aren't obstacles to overcome through external struggle. They're raw materials waiting to be processed in your inner laboratory through the conscious application of mental and spiritual laws that operate with mathematical precision. The transformation happens when you shift from seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances to recognizing yourself as the master alchemist of your own experience. Every thought you entertain, every emotion you cultivate, every belief you hold is literally an ingredient you're adding to the mixture that will crystallize into your next chapter of life. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to change their circumstances without first purifying their inner laboratory. They want different results while continuing to feed the same limiting thoughts, toxic emotions, and fear-based beliefs into their creative process. It's like trying to bake a gourmet meal with spoiled ingredients and wondering why the outcome is always disappointing. The real work of transformation happens behind the scenes, in the quiet moments when you consciously choose which thoughts to entertain, which emotions to cultivate, which beliefs to strengthen. Your subconscious mind is constantly taking inventory of what you're feeding it through your mental and emotional diet, then faithfully producing external conditions that match your internal programming. This is why some people seem to effortlessly transform their lives, while others struggle for years with the same patterns. The difference isn't luck, genetics, or external circumstances. It's the quality of work happening in their inner laboratory. Those who understand this process learn to purify their mental and emotional environment before attempting to create new outcomes. When you begin working with your consciousness as the sophisticated laboratory it actually is, everything changes about how you approach challenges, setbacks, and opportunities. Instead of reacting from old conditioning, you respond from creative authority. Instead of feeling powerless against circumstances, you recognize your role as the conscious director of your own transformation process. Now, I want to show you the specific techniques that the masters throughout history have used to consistently produce golden results from whatever raw materials life presents to them. Write in the comments, "I am the alchemist," if you're ready to start consciously directing the transformation process. That's always happening within your inner laboratory. When you study the greatest demonstrations of creative power ever recorded, you'll discover that they all follow the same fundamental formula that operates through superior spiritual laws, working from the inside out. Take Jesus, for example. When he multiplied loaves and fishes to feed thousands, when he healed the sick with a word, when he walked on water, these weren't supernatural violations of natural law. They were demonstrations of someone who had mastered the inner laboratory to such a degree that he could consistently apply higher principles that most people don't even know exist. Every miracle followed the same precise formula: clear perception of the solution already existing, absolute rejection of fear or doubt, and verbal decree charged with unshakable faith. This is the hidden truth behind every transformation that seems impossible by conventional standards. The master practitioners throughout history understood that the creative process always begins with a clear inner vision of the desired outcome, followed by the complete elimination of contradictory emotions, and then the authoritative declaration that aligns the invisible forces with the visible manifestation. But here's what most people miss entirely. These weren't special individuals with supernatural powers. They were people who understood the relationship between consciousness and reality so deeply that they could consciously direct the same creative forces that are available to you right now. The difference is that they learned to operate their inner laboratory with precision, while most people leave theirs running on autopilot. This brings us to one of the most revolutionary discoveries in the history of healing and transformation. Paracelsus, the great physician and alchemist, taught that all illness first manifests as an alteration in what he called man's invisible field, the energy matrix that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical body. According to his observations, healing only occurs when harmony is restored in that field, which means every physical ailment has an invisible mental and emotional cause. Think about the implications of this revelation. If every condition in your body first appears as a disturbance in your consciousness, then the most direct path to healing isn't through external intervention alone. It's through conscious work in your inner laboratory to restore the harmony that allows your body's natural healing intelligence to function perfectly. This doesn't mean you should ignore medical treatment or professional help. It means you can dramatically accelerate any healing process by addressing the invisible cause while treating the visible effect. When you understand that your body is constantly receiving instructions from your subconscious mind about how to function, you realize that changing those instructions can literally reprogram your cellular activity, your thoughts about your health, your emotional responses to symptoms, your beliefs about aging, illness, and recovery. All of these are constantly broadcasting signals to your immune system, your endocrine system, your nervous system. These signals either support healing and vitality, or they create stress and dysfunction at the cellular level. This is why two people can receive identical diagnoses and have completely different outcomes. One person immediately begins programming their inner laboratory with thoughts of healing, images of recovery, and words of restoration. The other unconsciously programs fear, deterioration, and helplessness. Their subconscious minds faithfully execute whichever program receives the most emotional energy and repetition. The journey of mastering this inner work begins when you recognize that every challenge in your life, whether physical, financial, relational, or professional, is fundamentally a call to elevate your consciousness and refine your inner laboratory. Your practices. Write in the comments, "I restore harmony within," if you're beginning to see how your inner state has been influencing your physical health and life circumstances in ways you never realized. But for your inner laboratory to function at its highest capacity, you need to understand that it requires three specific elements working in perfect harmony, just like any sophisticated creative process. Your mind operates exactly like an alchemist's laboratory, and it needs three essential components to produce transformation. First, you need desire, which functions as the fuel that powers the entire process. Without genuine desire, there's no movement, no motivation, no driving force to initiate change. This isn't casual wanting or wishful thinking. This is the kind of burning desire that comes from deep within your soul, the kind that refuses to accept current limitations as permanent reality. Second, you need imagination, which serves as the mold that gives form to your desire. Your imagination creates the template, the blueprint, the detailed vision of what you want to manifest. Without clear imagination, your desire has no direction, no specific shape to take. It's like having fuel without a container. The energy dissipates instead of concentrating into something concrete. Third, you need faith, which operates as the fire that fuses desire and imagination into manifestation. Without faith, you have fuel and a mold, but no transformative power to actually create change. Faith is the unwavering knowing that what you've imagined is not only possible but inevitable. It's the inner certainty that provides the emotional intensity necessary to imprint your vision onto your subconscious mind. When these three elements work together in your consciousness, something extraordinary happens. Your subconscious mind receives a complete creative instruction that includes the motivation to act, the clear vision of what to create, and the emotional conviction to make it real. This is when your inner laboratory begins producing results that seem miraculous to those who don't understand the process. Now here's where this becomes absolutely practical and life-changing. Every single cell in your body is constantly listening to and obeying the mental patterns you're broadcasting through your consciousness. Your organs, your immune system, your hormonal balance, your nervous system. Everything is governed by your subconscious self-image and the vibrational instructions you're constantly sending through your thoughts and emotions. Health isn't just the absence of disease or the result of good genetics. Health is a sustained mental vibration that consistently orders your biological systems how to function, how to regenerate, how to protect and heal themselves. When you understand this principle, you realize that every thought about your body, every emotion you associate with your physical condition, every story you tell about your health is literally programming your cellular activity. Your body doesn't age, deteriorate, or malfunction randomly. It follows the instructions it receives from your consciousness. If you consistently think thoughts of vitality, speak words of strength, and feel emotions of gratitude for your body's incredible intelligence, you're programming regeneration and optimal function at the cellular level. But if your mental patterns focus on decline, limitation, and dysfunction, you're inadvertently instructing your cells to manifest those conditions. This revelation completely transforms how you approach your physical well-being. Instead of feeling like a victim of genetics, aging, or circumstances, you recognize your role as the conscious director of your body's intelligence. You begin to understand that every conversation about your health, every internal dialogue about symptoms, every belief about what's possible for your body is actively shaping your biological reality. But there's an even more profound dimension to this process that connects your individual transformation to something much larger than yourself. Write in the comments, "My cells listen to me." If you're starting to grasp how your mental patterns have been programming your body's responses and you're ready to take conscious control of this process. When you begin consciously directing your cellular programming, you're actually participating in what Charles Fillmore called scientific prayer, a precise mental formulation designed to restore divine order in both mind and body. This isn't the kind of prayer most people are familiar with, where you beg some external force to intervene in your circumstances. Scientific prayer is the conscious alignment of your mental and emotional faculties with the principles that govern health, prosperity, and harmony. Instead of asking for healing, you affirm the perfect health that already exists as your natural state. Instead of requesting abundance, you proclaim the prosperity that is your divine inheritance. The transformation in your approach changes everything about the results you experience. When you shift from pleading to proclaiming, from hoping to knowing, from requesting to declaring, you activate entirely different creative mechanisms in your consciousness. You stop positioning yourself as someone who lacks something and start operating from the authority of someone who is simply claiming what already belongs to them. This distinction might seem subtle, but it creates a completely different vibrational frequency that your subconscious mind responds to. When you ask for health, you're unconsciously affirming that you don't currently have it. When you proclaim perfect health as already realized, you're programming your mind and body to manifest that reality. The difference in results is often dramatic and immediate. But here's where this practice becomes incredibly powerful. There's a specific time when your mind becomes most receptive to this kind of programming, and most people completely miss this golden opportunity every single day. In the moments just before sleep, when your body is deeply relaxed and your conscious mind is naturally letting go of its analytical control, your subconscious becomes extraordinarily receptive to new instructions. This twilight state, what scientists call the hypnagogic threshold, is like having direct access to your inner laboratory's control panel. What you plant in these sacred moments through conscious, mental formulation germinates and grows throughout the entire night, while your body's natural healing and regeneration processes are most active. Think about the implications of this discovery. Every night, you have approximately 20 to 30 minutes of prime programming time when you can literally rewrite the instructions your body receives about how to function. Instead of falling asleep to television, worry, or random mental chatter, you can use this time to direct specific healing, commands to whatever organs or systems need attention. This is when you can speak directly to your immune system and program it for optimal protection. You can address your cardiovascular system and instruct it for perfect circulation and heart health. You can communicate with your nervous system and command it to operate in perfect balance and harmony. Your cellular intelligence is listening with extraordinary attentiveness during these moments, ready to execute whatever program you consistently install. The impact of this nightly practice compounds over time. Each evening that you consciously direct healing vibrations to your body, you're strengthening the mental patterns that govern your physical well-being. Your subconscious mind begins to expect healing rather than deterioration, vitality rather than fatigue, regeneration rather than aging. But this evening, programming extends far beyond physical health into every area of your life experience, creating possibilities for transformation that most people never even imagine. Write in the comments, "I program while I sleep," if you're ready to start using those precious pre-sleep moments to consciously direct your body's healing and regeneration processes. When you understand that the same principles governing cellular regeneration also govern the flow of abundance, opportunities, and prosperity in your life, you begin to see that financial lack and material limitation follow the exact same patterns as physical dysfunction. Abundance isn't some random stroke of luck that happens to blessed individuals while others suffer through scarcity. It's a consequential phenomenon, the natural result of maintaining harmonious mental patterns that align with the infinite prosperity that surrounds us at all times. Just as your body manifests health when your consciousness is programmed with vitality, your external circumstances manifest abundance when your inner programming operates from patterns of prosperity and expectation. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that lack isn't a punishment from the universe or evidence that you're somehow unworthy of good things. Lack is simply the manifestation of misaligned thought patterns that have been unconsciously depositing images of scarcity, limitation, and struggle into your subconscious mind. Your financial conditions, your career opportunities, your material circumstances are all reflecting back to you the predominant mental and emotional patterns you've been feeding your inner creative laboratory. This means that transforming your relationship with money and abundance follows the exact same process as healing your body or improving your relationships. You begin by recognizing that your current financial reality is a printout of your subconscious programming. Then you consciously install new patterns that align with prosperity rather than scarcity. But here's where most people approach this completely backwards. They wait until they see money in their bank account before they allow themselves to feel prosperous. They postpone gratitude until after abundance arrives. They condition their mental state on their external circumstances, which keeps them locked in exactly the patterns that created their current limitations. The journey to authentic prosperity requires what I call mental tithing, a practice that's far more powerful than any external financial strategy. Mental tithing means dedicating at least 1/10 of your daily attention to contemplating wealth as a present reality rather than a future possibility. For every hour you spend worrying about bills, calculating shortfalls, or focusing on what you can't afford, you invest 6 minutes visualizing abundant accounts, feeling grateful for provision, and experiencing the emotions of financial freedom. This practice completely rewires your relationship with money because you're training your consciousness to operate from abundance rather than constantly reinforcing scarcity through your mental habits. Your subconscious mind begins to expect prosperity instead of struggle, which fundamentally changes how you perceive opportunities, make decisions, and respond to financial challenges. The transformation happens when you realize that your mental and emotional relationship with money has far more impact on your financial outcomes than your education, background, or current circumstances. People with identical qualifications and opportunities can have dramatically different financial trajectories based entirely on their internal programming about money, worth, and possibility. When you begin treating your prosperity consciousness with the same attention most people give to their career development, something extraordinary starts happening. Opportunities appear that you never would have noticed before. Ideas emerge that lead to additional income streams. Resources become available that seemed impossible when you were operating from scarcity programming. Now, I want to reveal how this principle extends into the most complex and challenging area of human experience: your relationships with other people and the hidden dynamics that determine whether these connections become sources of joy or ongoing frustration. Write in the comments, "I tithe my attention to abundance," if you're ready to start dedicating focused mental energy to prosperity instead of unconsciously programming limitation through worry and scarcity thinking. What you're about to discover might completely transform how you understand every relationship in your life. Every human bond you experience is essentially a mirror reflecting your inner world back to you with startling accuracy. The relationships you sustain, whether they're harmonious and fulfilling or consistently conflicted and draining, are direct manifestations of the images you've unconsciously deposited in your subconscious about how you deserve to be treated, valued, and loved. This revelation hits most people like a lightning bolt because it means that the patterns you see repeating in your relationships aren't accidents or bad luck. They're the external expression of your internal programming about love, worth, trust, and connection. If you consistently attract people who take advantage of your generosity, it's because some part of your subconscious has been programmed to expect and even seek out that dynamic. If you find yourself in relationships where you feel unheard or unappreciated, there's an internal pattern that's broadcasting that expectation. The journey of transformation begins when you stop trying to change other people and start recognizing that every relationship challenge is fundamentally an invitation to examine and upgrade your internal programming. This doesn't mean you're responsible for other people's behavior or that you should tolerate mistreatment. It means you have far more power to influence your relational experiences than you've been taught to believe. When deep resentment or hurt has created barriers between you and someone important in your life, there's a powerful technique that can dissolve years of accumulated emotional blocks in a matter of weeks. This approach works by shifting your perspective from the limited viewpoint of personal grievance to a higher vantage point that allows healing to occur naturally. The technique involves imagining both yourself and the other person being observed by a wise, loving, neutral presence, someone who sees the bigger picture with perfect clarity and infinite compassion. This could be a spiritual figure you revere, a version of your highest self, or simply an embodiment of unconditional love and wisdom. From this elevated perspective, you speak aloud in complete privacy, explaining your feelings, your pain, your disappointments, and your genuine desire for healing. But instead of speaking from the wounded place that wants to be right or to punish, you speak from the part of yourself that remembers the love that originally brought you together. You describe the relationship you truly want to create, one based on mutual respect, understanding, and authentic care. This practice works because it bypasses the ego's need to defend, blame, and maintain separateness. When you consistently hold this elevated perspective, something profound shifts in your own energy field. The resentment that was creating vibrational barriers begins to dissolve, and the other person often responds to this internal change in ways that seem miraculous, but are actually the natural result of shifting the fundamental frequency of the relationship. The most remarkable aspect of this approach is that the other person doesn't need to know you're doing it, agree with your perspective, or participate in any conscious healing process. When you genuinely transform your internal relationship with them, their behavior toward you often changes spontaneously because you're no longer broadcasting the same vibrational signals that were eliciting their previous responses. This principle reveals something profound about the hidden mechanics of all human interaction and opens the door to understanding how your internal state shapes not just individual relationships, but your entire social reality. Write in the comments, "My relationships reflect my inner world," if you're beginning to see how your subconscious programming about love and connection has been shaping the dynamics you experience with others. But here's where many people hit a wall in their transformation journey, and it's absolutely crucial that you understand why this happens so you don't give up when you're actually closer to breakthrough than you realize. You might start applying these principles with genuine enthusiasm, declaring health, prosperity, and harmonious relationships with sincere intention, yet find that results seem inconsistent or slow to appear. This leads many people to conclude that the principles don't work, when in reality something far more subtle is happening behind the scenes in their consciousness. Decrees never fail. This is a fundamental law of consciousness that operates with mathematical precision. But the soil where these decrees are planted can be contaminated with unconscious residues that create interference patterns. Your mind contains layers of contradictory images, inherited belief systems, failure memories from past disappointments, and deeply embedded patterns that can actually reject positive programming through what psychologists call ambivalence. Think of it this way: if you plant healthy seeds in polluted soil, the seeds themselves are perfect, but they can't grow properly in a toxic environment. Your conscious mind might be declaring, "I am worthy of love and success," while your unconscious mind is simultaneously running programs that whisper, "People like me don't get to have good things," or "I always mess up eventually." This internal conflict creates a vibrational mixed signal that your subconscious mind can't execute clearly. It's like trying to drive a car with one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. You get a lot of struggle and very little forward movement. The decree has power, but it's being neutralized by contradictory programming that operates below the threshold of conscious awareness. But there's an even more insidious factor that sabotages transformation for countless people, and most never even recognize it's happening. Guilt operates as a silent neutralizer that can completely block the manifestation process, even when everything else seems aligned. When you repeat positive affirmations while harboring deep feelings of unworthiness, shame, or guilt about past mistakes, your subconscious mind won't allow the positive programming to take root. This happens because your subconscious doesn't respond to the intellectual content of your words. It responds to the emotionally charged beliefs that carry the strongest conviction. If you say, "I deserve abundance," but you feel guilty about wanting more than others have, or ashamed of past financial mistakes, or unworthy because of things you've done or failed to do, that guilt carries more emotional intensity than your positive declaration. Your subconscious mind, being the faithful servant it is, responds to whichever program has the strongest emotional charge. It essentially says, "I hear you declaring prosperity, but I feel you, believing you don't deserve it, so I'll follow the stronger signal and maintain limitation to keep you safe from the disappointment of having and losing." This creates a frustrating cycle where people work harder and harder at positive thinking while unconsciously reinforcing the very patterns they're trying to change. They blame themselves for lack of faith or insufficient effort, not realizing that unresolved guilt is creating an invisible ceiling on their ability to receive good things. The transformation begins when you recognize that clearing these hidden obstacles isn't about perfecting yourself or eliminating all negative thoughts. It's about creating conscious practices that neutralize the interference and establish clear communication between your desires and your subconscious programming. Write in the comments, "I clear the interference," if you're ready to identify and dissolve the hidden patterns that have been blocking your positive declarations from manifesting in your life. There's a specific three-step process that can systematically dissolve these internal conflicts and restore your natural ability to manifest positive change. The first step is recognition, which requires becoming an observer of your own mental and emotional patterns. Most people live their entire lives unconsciously executing programs they inherited from family, culture, and past experiences, without ever examining what's actually running in the background of their consciousness. You begin by simply noticing the automatic thoughts that arise when you declare something positive about yourself or your future. When you say, "I am prosperous," what immediate thoughts or feelings surface? When you affirm perfect health, does part of you whisper about genetic predispositions or past diagnoses? When you declare loving relationships, do memories of betrayal or abandonment create emotional static? This isn't about judging these responses. It's about bringing them into conscious awareness so they can be addressed directly. The second step involves practicing conscious silence, which allows your mental soil to regenerate and become receptive to new programming. Just as a farmer sometimes lets a field lie fallow to restore its fertility, your consciousness needs periods of stillness where you're not trying to affirm, manifest, or change anything. You simply rest in silent awareness, allowing the accumulated mental and emotional toxicity to settle and clear naturally. This silence isn't meditation in the traditional sense. It's more like giving your inner laboratory a thorough cleaning. During these periods of conscious stillness, your subconscious mind releases its defensive grip on old patterns and becomes naturally more receptive to new instructions. The interference that was blocking your positive programming begins to dissolve without struggle or effort. The third step is reprogramming from this purified emotional state. After recognition has brought awareness and silence has cleared the static, you can now decree from a place of inner alignment rather than internal conflict. Your positive declarations carry authentic power because they're no longer competing with contradictory programming for your subconscious mind's attention. But here's where this process becomes exponentially more powerful. When you understand that consciousness operates not just individually but collectively, there's a phenomenon that occurs when two or more people unite in the same idea with the same intention and genuine spiritual alignment. They create a vibrational force field that transcends anything possible through individual thought alone. This synchronized consciousness acts with far greater intensity on the invisible planes where manifestation begins. It's like the difference between a single voice speaking in a room versus a trained choir singing in perfect harmony. The collective creates resonance patterns that can move mountains of resistance that individual effort might struggle against for years. Throughout history, the most profound transformations in human experience have occurred when groups of people aligned their consciousness around a common vision with unwavering faith. Whether it was healing circles in ancient traditions, prayer groups that dissolved seemingly impossible situations, or movements that shifted entire societies, the principle remains the same. United consciousness amplifies creative power beyond mathematical calculation. When you join with others who understand these principles, even if it's just one other person, you're tapping into what Jesus meant when he said, "Where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them." This isn't religious doctrine. It's a precise description of how consciousness operates when individual minds synchronize around truth. But there's a specific way to harness this collective power that most people never discover, and it involves understanding the exact conditions that allow multiple consciousnesses to merge into a unified creative force. Write in the comments, "I join the unified field," if you're ready to experience the amplified power that becomes available when consciousness aligns with others who understand these principles. When groups attempt to practice collective affirmation without understanding these precise requirements, they often create more confusion than clarity, more scattered energy than focused power. The first essential requirement is unity of intention, which means every participant must be in complete agreement about what's being affirmed. This isn't just intellectual agreement, it's a deep alignment where everyone involved feels the same pull toward the same outcome. Even one person harboring secret doubts or conflicting desires can create interference that weakens the entire field. The power comes from absolute unanimity of purpose. The second requirement is unity of emotion, where each person doesn't just intellectually understand the affirmation, but genuinely feels it as true in their bones. When someone says, "perfect health manifests now," while secretly fearing their diagnosis, they're introducing emotional discord that fragments the collective energy. The magic happens when everyone involved feels the same elevated emotion, whether it's gratitude, joy, confidence, or love, while speaking the same words. The third requirement is unity of subsequent silence, where after the affirmation is spoken together, all participants enter the same quality of expectant stillness. This shared silence allows the collective decree to settle into the invisible realm without interference from individual mental chatter or analysis. It's like letting the ripples from a perfectly thrown stone spread across still water without creating additional disturbance. When these three conditions align, something extraordinary occurs. The individual boundaries between consciousnesses begin to dissolve, and what emerges is a unified field of creative intention that operates with the power of a laser compared to the scattered light of individual effort. This is when miracles become natural, when impossible situations suddenly shift, when healing occurs that defies medical explanation. But here's where this understanding becomes absolutely crucial for your personal journey of transformation. Even when you're working alone, even when you're facing challenges that seem overwhelming, you have access to the same principle that makes collective power so effective. It's the hidden truth behind how you can transform any crisis into the foundation for your greatest breakthrough. No crisis exists that cannot become a cornerstone for something magnificent. No loss occurs that doesn't contain the seeds of unexpected gain. No setback happens that can't be converted into a setup for unprecedented success. But here's the key. Everything depends entirely on how you verbally and mentally formulate your experience in the crucial moments when difficulty strikes. External events, no matter how dramatic or devastating they appear, never have the final say in your story. You do. The way you choose to interpret, describe, and decree about your circumstances determines whether they become evidence of limitation or catalysts for expansion. This isn't positive thinking or denial of reality. This is understanding that your response to events carries more creative power than the events themselves. Most people allow their circumstances to dictate their internal state, but masters of consciousness reverse this equation. They use their internal authority to determine what their circumstances will ultimately mean and become. When financial loss strikes, they don't deny the temporary pain, but they immediately begin reformulating the experience as clearing space for unprecedented abundance. When health challenges arise, they acknowledge the current reality while declaring it a temporary detour toward greater vitality than they've ever known. This reformulation process isn't about lying to yourself or pretending everything is wonderful when it's clearly not. It's about understanding that you're always at choice about the story you tell regarding what's happening to you, and that story becomes the blueprint for what happens next. Write in the comments, "I reformulate my story," if you're ready to start taking conscious control over how you interpret and declare the meaning of whatever challenges you're currently facing. The most powerful example of this principle in action comes from studying how people rebuild their lives after experiencing profound trauma or loss. Veterans who successfully reconstructed meaningful lives after experiencing the horrors of war weren't necessarily those who emerged physically unharmed or who had the easiest transitions back to civilian life. The ones who thrived were those who returned home, speaking about their experiences in fundamentally different ways. Instead of defining themselves as victims of circumstances beyond their control, they reformulated their narratives around growth, discovery, and strength. They would say things like, "I learned what real courage means. I discovered reserves of resilience I never knew I had. I understand the value of every peaceful moment." Or, "I know I can handle anything life brings." This wasn't denial or minimization of their suffering. It was conscious alchemy that transformed wounds into medals, trauma into wisdom, loss into deeper appreciation for what remained. The language shift created an entirely different relationship with their past, which then created different possibilities for their future. Their subconscious minds received instructions about strength and capability rather than damage and limitation. Their nervous systems began responding to cues of empowerment rather than triggers of helplessness. The same experiences that could have defined them as broken, instead, became evidence of their unbreakable spirit. This demonstrates something profound about the creative power embedded in how you choose to narrate your own story. Every person who has transformed devastating circumstances into extraordinary outcomes has mastered this art of conscious reformulation. They understand that while you can't always control what happens to you, you absolutely control what you make it mean. But here's where this becomes immediately practical for your daily experience. The transformation process doesn't just happen during major life crises. It begins with how you program each day from the very first moment of consciousness. Your opening thought, your initial declaration, your first mental and emotional stance sets the vibrational tone that influences everything that follows. The day's first thought operates like a seed that bears fruit throughout the following hours. Most people wake up and immediately begin mental rehearsals of their problems, worries about their schedule, or complaints about how they feel. They're unconsciously planting seeds of struggle, stress, and limitation that their subconscious mind then works to manifest throughout the day. Masters of conscious creation have learned to interrupt this automatic pattern and instead plant seeds of victory, cooperation, and positive expectation before their feet even touch the floor. The practice is simple but extraordinarily powerful. Before rising from bed, place your right hand over your heart and repeat 3 times with genuine feeling. "This is a victory day. Everything cooperates for my good." This isn't wishful thinking or naive optimism. It's conscious programming that gives your subconscious mind clear instructions about how to filter experiences, interpret events, and attract circumstances throughout the day. When you consistently begin each day by declaring victory and cooperation, your mind begins noticing opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems, support instead of opposition. The impact of this morning practice compounds over time, creating what appears to be extraordinary luck, but is actually the result of systematically training your consciousness to operate from expectation of good rather than anticipation of difficulty. Write in the comments, "I plant victory seeds," if you're committed to transforming your morning routine and beginning each day with conscious declarations that set the tone for miraculous unfolding. But the real transformation happens when you understand that conscious creation isn't just a morning ritual. It's a complete system that works with your natural rhythms throughout the entire day to maintain consistent vibrational alignment. Most people plant positive seeds in the morning and then immediately forget about them, allowing their consciousness to drift back into unconscious patterns of worry, complaint, and reactive thinking. This is like planting a garden and then abandoning it to weeds and drought. The seeds have potential, but they need consistent tending to flourish into manifestation. The midday reinforcement practice becomes crucial for maintaining the vibrational momentum you initiated at dawn. Around the middle of your day, when stress typically peaks and your morning inspiration begins to fade, you create a 5-minute pause for conscious restoration. This isn't just a break from activity. It's a deliberate intervention that prevents your consciousness from sliding back into default patterns of limitation. During this midday moment, you close your eyes and repeat your morning affirmation using a specific rhythmic breathing technique that amplifies its impact. Instead of just thinking the words, you breathe them into your cellular structure by inhaling the first part of your phrase and exhaling the second part. If your morning declaration was, "This is a victory day, everything cooperates for my good," you would inhale while mentally saying, "This is a victory day," and exhale while feeling, "Everything cooperates for my good." This breathing variation does something profound. It engages your autonomic nervous system in the programming process, creating a physiological anchor that helps your body remember the elevated state, even when your mind gets busy with tasks and challenges. You repeat this cycle 10 times without hurry, allowing each breath to deepen your alignment with the reality you're consciously creating. But the most powerful transformation happens during what scientists call the hypnagogic threshold, that twilight zone between waking and sleep when your conscious mind naturally relaxes its analytical control and your subconscious becomes extraordinarily receptive to new programming. This is your daily opportunity to integrate and evaluate the effectiveness of your conscious creation practice. Just before sleep, you rewrite your morning affirmation in a journal or notebook, not mechanically, but with full presence and intention. Then you perform a simple but revealing self-evaluation by honestly assessing 3 crucial factors: how much you actually believed your affirmation during the day, how often you remembered to align with it during challenging moments, and what effects you noticed in your mood, interactions, and circumstances. This evaluation isn't about judgment or perfectionism. It's about developing conscious competence in the art of reality creation. When you consistently track your alignment with your intentions, you begin to notice patterns. You discover which phrases carry authentic power for you and which ones feel hollow. You identify the times of day when you're most susceptible to old programming and the circumstances that most easily trigger unconscious reactions. Over time, this pre-sleep ritual creates a feedback loop that naturally refines your practice. Your subconscious mind, receiving this nightly review, begins to automatically course correct during the day, reminding you to return to your declared reality when you start drifting into reactive patterns. The profound impact of this complete daily system extends far beyond personal transformation, creating ripple effects that influence every life you touch and contributing to the collective elevation of human consciousness itself. Write in the comments, "I complete the daily cycle," if you're ready to implement this morning to evening system that transforms random experiences into conscious creation through consistent vibrational alignment. But to experience the full depth of this transformation, you need to understand that conscious creation operates in cycles, and there's a specific progression that allows your consciousness to integrate these principles at increasingly profound levels. The most effective approach involves committing to a 30-day transformation cycle that systematically addresses the 3 fundamental areas where most people experience limitation. This isn't arbitrary timing. 30 days represents the approximate period required for new neural pathways to become established and for your subconscious mind to accept new programming as its default operating system. The journey unfolds in 3 distinct phases, each building upon the previous one. During the first 10 days, you focus your morning declarations, midday reinforcements, and evening integrations specifically on your body and health. This foundational phase establishes your authority over your physical experience and proves to your conscious mind that your words actually influence your cellular activity, energy levels, and overall vitality. As you move into days 11 through 20, you shift your focus to abundance and career fulfillment, building on the confidence you've gained from experiencing tangible changes in your physical well-being. This second phase often produces the most dramatic external shifts as your new relationship with your body's intelligence translates into greater confidence, clearer decision-making, and more magnetic attraction of opportunities and resources. The final 10 days concentrate on relationships and spiritual expansion, addressing the most complex and subtle aspects of conscious creation. By this point in the cycle, you've developed enough skill and confidence to work with the intricate dynamics of human connection and your relationship with the infinite creative intelligence that operates through you. What makes this progression so powerful is that each phase prepares you for the next level of mastery, while providing concrete evidence that these principles actually work in the physical world. Most people abandon consciousness practices because they don't see results quickly enough, but this structured approach virtually guarantees progressive victories that build unstoppable momentum. But here's what transforms this from a mere technique into a life-altering spiritual practice. Understanding that what you're engaging in isn't just another self-improvement routine. This daily ritual of conscious word power represents a sacred covenant between you and the creative forces of the universe. It's a consecration of your language that recognizes words as vessels of divine creative energy. When your spoken word consistently aligns with eternal principles of truth, love, and abundance, something profound occurs in your consciousness. Your voice becomes a clear channel through which universal good flows into manifestation. Your declarations carry authentic spiritual authority because they're no longer coming from ego or personal will, but from your recognition of your role as a conscious co-creator with the infinite intelligence that governs all life. This is the hidden secret behind every great spiritual teacher, healer, and transformer throughout history. They learned to speak from this consecrated place where human will aligns perfectly with divine will. Their words carried power not because they were special individuals, but because they had purified their language until it became a direct expression of universal truth. As you continue this journey, you'll discover that the real transformation isn't just in what you create externally, but in who you become, as you learn to wield the creative power of consciousness with wisdom, reverence, and authentic service to the highest good. If you've stayed with me through this entire exploration of the gold of words, you've already demonstrated something remarkable about yourself. You have the patience and dedication that genuine transformation requires. Most people scroll past content like this, but you've invested your time and attention in understanding principles that can literally reshape your reality from the inside out. This tells me you're exactly the kind of person I create content for. Someone who's ready to go beyond surface-level motivation and dive deep into the actual mechanics of how consciousness creates experience. If you found value in this journey we've taken together, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel so you never miss these deeper explorations into the hidden laws that govern transformation. The connection we've built over these past minutes matters to me, and honestly, hitting that like button helps this message reach others who are ready for this level of understanding. There are people out there right now searching for exactly what we've covered today, and your simple action helps them find it. If you made it all the way to this moment with me, leave a comment saying, "My words are my creative power." I read every single comment, and it means everything to know that these teachings are landing with people who are genuinely committed to conscious creation. And speaking of conscious creation, there's a video right here that takes this understanding even deeper into how your thoughts literally reshape your brain and nervous system. It's the perfect next step in your journey of mastering the invisible forces that create your visible world. Click and continue with me over there. I think you'll find it builds beautifully on everything we've discovered together today. Remember, your word is your wand. Use it wisely.